I spent 25 years investing in and protecting breakthrough innovations for many of the industries that brought prosperity in America, from the wireless that you have in your phone. We often take for granted the power of that, to take the physical, turn it into virtual, send it at the speed of light, and somehow through windows, buildings, walls, and in your pocket, it makes it into your phone and becomes physical again so you can see it. To the smart cards that are actually computers that sit in your pocket for security, for online payment at a checkout stand, to electric motors in vehicles, to the semiconductors that power our computers, our laptops, our desktops, to the way in which we amplify DNA today. Many of us know that technology as PCR, the PCR test, to call attention to it. It actually means polymerase chain reaction. And it was the fundamental technology that created the biotech industry. Before, we weren't in any kind of timely manner able to see the DNA in the body. And this technique allows us to actually see DNA so we can detect diseases, viruses, and we can develop treatments, genetic treatments, to help save lives. The experiences in doing what I did, investing in and protecting these breakthrough innovations, actually taught me the power of breakthrough innovations to drive economic prosperity in America, protect our freedoms. It's what has made America great. It's what has allowed America to take a leadership role in the world. And in order to actually realize that economic benefit, one of the things that I've learned is broad adoption is critical. You can have something great, but if you don't share it with the world and allow it to rapidly be used, broadly adopted, allow it spread, you're losing the power of something when breakthrough that can be transformative to a country, a company, or to a community and the people who live in those communities. So breakthrough innovations for me are critical. I've seen that time and time again in America, and I created COTE Capital to take advantage of the insights that I've learned over 25 years to build a community, hopefully millions of people one day, that will actually work with me to invest in the same kinds of companies, a new generation, of course, that are developing breakthrough innovations so we can scale many more of those companies and watch them grow, but more importantly, watch them have the cascading ripple effects that bring economic growth to our country and allow America to stay strong. We listen every day in the news repeatedly to the fact that America's IP and its manufacturing has been offshored, and we need to bring it home. COTE Capital is created for that purpose, taking the years of insights that I have in how to fund those innovations, how to scale those innovations, how to protect them, which is equally important to sharing, obviously, and how to create economic value in a way that will bring the kind of prosperity we take for granted often today into the future for future generations. That is the purpose of COTE Capital. We want to inspire innovators, inspire innovations here in America, and we want to make sure that the manufacturing base is here to be able to commercialize those products, turn those ideas into real products, again, to ensure that our nation is not left behind and to make sure our nation stays strong well into the future. The PCR example is one of many, but it's a really, really good example. In the case of PCR, here you have a fundamental technology that's allowing you to see the DNA in the body to detect disease and viruses in ways that was not otherwise possible, and now you can develop treatments. How do you scale this? How do you build a business? Do you keep the IP close to the vest, or do you share it? And so the company who had developed the PCR technology made some really interesting insights. One, if they built the business themselves, they didn't have the time, the money, right, or the manpower to be able to scale it as quickly as they knew it needed to be scaled. They also knew that alternative technologies might emerge if they didn't share what they had with others. They also realized that if they were going to share, they needed a way to protect it through legal rights and other mechanisms. So protection was pretty important in their thinking. And they realized that if they could share the technology, not only could they benefit the world more quickly, they'd actually grow their business. They'd actually be sharing in the risk with partners around the world that would get access to these innovations. So broad adoption really goes hand in hand with sharing. And the notion of sharing, not in the way of giving it away, that's why we must protect what we have so we can reap the economic benefits, but actually license and franchise the technology so that many, many other companies can take advantage of it. And that's exactly what they did. They opened up the market opportunity of selling the equipment and the materials that allow you to do PCR to many other manufacturers around the world. And they licensed them, franchised them, and they collected a royalty on revenue, a share of those revenues. So one, they allowed for the growth in PCR, the spreading of PCR, the adoption of PCR to rapidly grow in its use and applications. On the other hand, they were able to actually build a business for themselves much more quickly and create much more value because they shared in all of those licensing and franchising arrangements. So I learned the power in the case of PCR of breakthrough innovations. The fact that broad adoption is where the real power comes from, not only for economic prosperity in a country, but for actually building a business smarter, better, and at less risk, because the risk is now diversified, not just sitting in your hands, but sitting in the hands of many others who really want to take advantage of the value that you're offering them. So in our case, in the efforts of investing in and scaling the use of PCR, we generated over $2 billion in the revenue share that we experienced, the IP royalty, as I like to call it. In the most recent 10 years, I invested in additional breakthrough innovations, returning $1 billion, over $1 billion in cash and in non-cash payments, assets. The cash component was $665 million, which represents a 4.6 multiple on my money, a cash on cash return. And the IRR from that was actually 112%. That is a benefit in the way that we creatively structured those opportunities, a more complex discussion for another day. What I realized from that performance, and of course the performance before that in scaling broad adoption of PCR, is that we could, with the IP Capital model, have a much bigger impact. Myself, my team, if we could open up these opportunities to the millions of people in this country and around the world that can benefit from this model in seeing many more of these companies with breakthrough innovations grow and thrive, to not only have an impact in the world, but to see manufacturing and IP come back to America.